Doing great out here in muggy Florida.
Really? Well, at least
Yes,
we're in the
sir.
same time zone.
Yeah. No, it's
That's
I'm
Yeah, well, that's
straight
great. I
north of
just
you.
want. I'd like to get this over on my channel here, but it's not working.
it's
So
showing that
I'll
it's
have to.
going. It is streaming onto your
Yeah.
channel right now. I see it.
Is it? No, I
Yeah.
don't see it. It's mine still. No, it's not yet.
Let's see. On my StreamYard, it's showing you as live. Yeah, we are. We're live right now. Yep. I'm on
I'm
your
over
channel
on
right
my.
now.
It's strange. I'm over on. It's strange. I'm over on my channel, but I
Go to the
don't
live streams
see it.
videos. I I already double checked this, so you're good, Bob. It's already showing.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah.
yep.
All right. So there we go. I just better tell everybody to go over to the other.
See,
I just
here's
uh,
a
I
here's a
just tell
comment
them to
from Matt.
pop over to the other.
Look, Rob File
There we
says
go.
up and running, guys. So we're definitely on your guys' YouTube channel. So if you guys are tuning in live, you can catch this broadcast on my Rockfin, Odyssey, and Rumble channels. And you can catch it on the Apollo Detectives YouTube channel. So it is on several platforms. And then don't forget, I will also be uploading it to my podcast audio platforms, Spotify, Apple iTunes, wherever you may consume your podcast. So gentlemen, I'm super excited to have you guys on. It gives me a little bit of a break from talking about, in my opinion, another staged event, but that's a separate subject. And so we will be talking about the moon landings, which we are in agreement here on this channel, anyways, that we're all staged and fake. And the legendary Marcus Allen debated MC Toon a few days ago and did a terrific, outstanding job against someone who I deem as obnoxious and annoying. MC Toon, for those that may not be familiar, has a pretty large YouTube following. I believe he's got about 75,000 YouTube subscribers. And he's known to have many debates. And the thing is, once you study him, he's a one trick pony when it comes to debates. He likes to use smears ad hominems, and when you press him, he likes to just jump out of the way. And the way Mr. Marcus Allen, and I'm going to play some of those highlights on today's show, but the way Mr. Marcus Allen handled him, I thought he did an excellent job. What are your thoughts on that debate?
Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, you take it. I'm just going to do answer a couple of people here.
Okay. I was sitting on Skype with Marcus before the debate started, and originally it was arranged that he would be on 1 o'clock his time. And don't forget, he's 80-plus-year-old man. It didn't start until 2:30, and they kept him up till 6 o'clock in the morning. Absolutely disgusting. Okay? They wanted to wear him down. He's a busy man. He was basically up for 24 hours doing that debate.
And he's 84 years old, you know?
And everybody needs to understand that. It's not just disrespectful. It should have been rescheduled when they couldn't connect. Then they switched from whatever platform they were on, and I helped him set it up so he could share the screen and do everything else. They switched it over to connect through Zoom. He didn't know how to operate the program, so he couldn't share the screen. So his initial presentation was nothing more than just an introductory chat to the subject. Okay. The manner, or the uncivilized manner, okay, that McToon was doing, absolutely atrocious. And I tried to warn Marcus about that at the time. Like as I said, when it got to be like 2 o'clock in the morning, I said, just cancel it, just quit. Nothing wrong with it, right? This guy isn't even responding to him at that point. But to have to put up with him for 4 hours like that, Marcus is an absolute trooper. Absolute trooper for doing that. Nothing more. He should have just got on, and when McToon started misbehaving, like childish misbehavior. Okay. He's not a man. You're dealing with a complete idiot. Okay. He knows nothing about this subject. Marcus Allen knows about this subject. Okay. He knows nothing about it. And when he came on and he started hammering him about the photographic films and stuff like that. Like, oh, it's only one kind of film. It's special. It's this, that, and everything else, right? No, it isn't. We've got the documents. We've got the NASA documents. They're up on the latest video we put up as well, showing that. And they're showing what modifications were made to the film, which had nothing to do with hardening it for space, for vacuum, for temperature, or radiation. Okay? The film was made thinner, 2.5 times thinner, so that you could get, instead of having 70 images on there, they were able to get 150 color and 200 black and white. By extending the length of it, they could get more on the film. That's all that was done with it. Okay? And claiming we don't know how to process film and all of this stuff, and just going at Marcus like that. Absolutely disgusting. Just beyond it. I had to turn the volume down and get up. I actually minimized the screen because I couldn't look at this man's face. Okay? And what he reminds me of is the Trailer Park Boys. Okay? He's Bubbles. Absolute, just disgusting.
Yeah, he's a extremely obnoxious character. And, after his debate with Raza, he tagged me on Twitter, was laughing, having a good time. After that debate, I didn't hear anything from Toon. He knows. I mean, his fans will say he did great and blah, blah, blah. Of course, they're going to show for him whatever he does. I mean, he can't do anything wrong in their eyes. But it's funny how Toon didn't tag me that day. And I tagged him, and I uploaded a clip of, Marcus telling him, stop using, behave. Stop using personal attacks and putting this clown in his place. He was just such a,
because he knows nothing about the subject.
Asshole.
He was stopping Marcus from presenting. Okay, Marcus was trying to present Buzz Aldrin in the door frame there, showing that there's no console inside that stage prop, because that's all it was. The LEM was nothing more than a stage prop. He was trying to show him.
Well, that was it. Yeah, well, can I say something?
Certainly.
Scott?
But you can share the screen if you like, and show it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. I'll share the screen, and I'm going to show a few things that are very interesting here. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go over to here. Let's see here. Now this is kind of new to me. So if I share the screen here,
I'm gonna.
Is that you, Weezy?
That's me sharing right now. While you find that one, I want to show a glimpse of this guy.
Show his behavior.
Yeah. So here's Toon.
And then, like I say, within like a minute, try to pass the ball so that we can have some back and forth.
Okay.
I think that would be useful. But
MC
like I
Toon
say, I'm not here to
guy.
tell anybody how their debate tactics should unfold. It is up to the audience to decide. So I'll give you the ball back there, Marcus, and with that in context, and let's see if we can get into some back and forth here.
It's
moon landing is a hoax.
Okay, here we go.
Then he's perfectly entitled to do it. So I shall carry on.
Rubik's Cube.
Hello, Mike. You listening?
Tap, tap.
Thank you. We were talking about photographs on the lunar surface. 5,771.
This is the kind of jerk that the legendary Mr. Allen had to deal with. Showing complete disinterest and pulling out a Rubik's Cube. And at one point, I have a couple of timestamps, but definitely, Bob, if you have a few timestamps or clips that you want to share, let's share screen them. But Toon has this habit of poking at minute details that matter none to the conversation at hand. And if you don't know the answer right there and then, he just, why don't you know it? Tell me, huh? Like he just keeps pressing and pressing and pressing. Marcus got him back at one point and asked him, you know, what was it? Something along the lines, who were the two astronauts that did this? And MC2, I don't know. It's not relevant. It's not. His fallback was it's not relevant. So when he does it, it's perfectly fine. But when someone does his same tactics onto him, it's not relevant. This guy's a freaking clown. And anyone being objective in looking, you know, at the debate through an objective lens. Obviously, I have a bias towards Marcus Allen, but I was trying to be as objective as possible. And I thought he handled himself with that type of a character in an extremely well done. And given the circumstances that it was 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning in the UK. And I mean, Marcus is 84 years old. And I mean, kudos to Marcus for
absolutely
putting this clown in his place.
Can I share a few little highlights with you up here? Now, I guess I just have to hit the present little tab there.
It's already on the screen.
It's already up.
Play and unmute the. You see that little speaker there? Yeah, unmute that and then play it.
All right, so that's pretty cool. We can see that the hammer and feather fell at the same rate. That confirms they did this in. So in the vicinity of the moon is a very low pressure area. So very nice for there. Now, the question you may have is, how fast did it fall? Did it fall matching moon gravity or Earth gravity? Well, I have counted the frames. This particular video we're looking at is at 29.97 frames per second. It took 36 frames to fall.
The film is affected by the vacuum of space, as we've established. We've used vacuum chambers. We've had it confirmed by universities, University of Patras, that photographic film is seriously affected by vacuum. The two spacecraft are the Hexagon spy satellite, that's the KH-9. It was a very successful spy satellite. It was to replace the U-2 spy plane. It's the size of a school bus, and it used photographic film. Now, I attended in 2018 a presentation given by the designer of the camera system on the Hexagon spy satellite. And he said that the film from the spools through to the camera into the buckets from which they were dropped to be caught by planes, believe it or not, for real, had to be kept under pressure, 1.5 pound per square inch of pressure. The other satellite that used photographic film was the Lunar Orbiter. The Lunar Orbiter flew in 1966 to photograph landing sites for the proposed Apollo missions. The film was carried on the spacecraft in a pressurized container. As NASA, it was researched by Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and they said that it had to be pressurized because otherwise the moisture within the film would be removed and the film would become useless.
And that's fine. I don't mind you looking silly. That's kind of what I do. I shine the spotlight on people that are,
without getting into a meta discussion.
So,
let's try to move into some new territory if we feel like we've hammered this.
Personal attacks. Personal attacks are out of order. Stop doing it at once.
Cool. Got it.
Do not make personal attacks.
Got
it is quite unnecessary.
Yeah. Hey, if you can't handle math, if you can't handle pressure, it's on you.
It totally demeans your position. Stop it at once.
Can you stop that? I've
read the book you recommended. Thank you for that, by the way.
Okay, I'd like to discuss that part. What they were talking about, Marcus was was describing vacuum in reference to the Tor scale, which is a logarithmic scale. Toon was saying that there's only like 1/10 of 1% difference between -1 and -17. Okay, the Tor scale does not have anything to do with the percentage. If you're dealing with percentages, it's the percentage of air left inside a particular chamber. However, the Tor scale measures the force. Okay, and to give an example of that for people, just to give a better understanding of how the vacuum works, if you take a differential scale which measures a plus and or minus, or the direction that the pressure is at, and you put it in a container, just close the container and seal it off with the pressure gauge on it. The gauge will read 0, but you have 100% air inside that container. But you also have the same amount of air, the same percentage of air on the outside of the container. Okay, like it's 14.7 psi. So the gauge is going to read 0. If you simply heat up that container, the gauge is going to move to the plus side. Okay, there's absolutely no difference in the amount of air inside the container. If you then cool it down, it's going to move to the negative side. It's measuring the force, the differential force between the outside atmosphere and the inside. And when you do that, you still have exactly the same amount of air. You still have 100% air. Okay? And this is where this man doesn't understand it. You cannot take and use a percentage or use a different scale and measure it against a logarithmic scale. Okay, and the logarithmic scale is 10, 100, and 1,000. 10 to the first, second, and third.
Now, just hold on a second, Scott. Hold on. Now, we have, can you hear me okay? Okay. Now, because I have a little bit of a delay for you guys, so I just have to kind of feel this out. But I just had a talk with Bill Demos this morning. Well, actually, about half an hour ago. Bill, he is the one who did this experiment for us at the University of Patras, Greece. And Bill was the one who explained to Scott, this man is an extremely intelligent physics teacher, right? He has a Bachelor of Science in physics, electronics. So he sat here for 3 hours in an interview explaining Tor and explaining the decimal points and explaining that it's a fraction. What Toon tried to do is he tried to make it look like flat earthers. Well, when you get a -10, that's not a negative number. A negative number is a negative number. This is a fraction. And when we're going 0.01, let's take microfarads, for example. If you put a 0.1 microfarad capacitor in an oscillator and put a 0.001 microfarad capacitor in an oscillator, it will start to oscillate at a completely different frequency. Now, if you put a 0.5 microfarad capacitor in there, it will explode. It'll shut the oscillator right off. So it all depends. Now you see where that 1 0, that 1 0 after the decimal. So you can imagine when you get to 0.001 microfarad capacitor or 0.00001, that's a big difference, my friends. And Tor is the same thing. This was the kind of examples that Bill was using to try to get our heads around it. So indeed, Toon, or rather Mike, he hasn't had university training. This man has. We have resident people in their fields that come on here and explain it. But of course, he wouldn't have known that. So he just goes off. Now, the other thing I would like to make known too is he was talking about the film. The very first film that you've seen that I just showed, the black and white one, that was the ISO 160. That was the same film NASA had for their black and white photos. I had to purchase that specially out of California, and it took 3 weeks before it got here. And I'm not going to tell or reveal how much that film costs. It was not cheap. So therefore, what Mike did was he pulled, because we don't have any of the material posted on the Owlus site. Guess where he went? Right to the Owlus site, because that was the experiment we did. We were only able to pull our vacuum down very little compared to what Bill pulled his down to. And that's why the colors all went crazy. You see, it's all blue. When you see the contact sheets, it's all blue. It's got red streaks through it. It's fog. One of the trees is so fogged you can barely see it. And again, that all depends on where the film was in the chamber. So those trees around those were around the outside of the film because they were done last. So when the film rolls and I rewind it, the last becomes the first. It comes to the top. So when you put that in the chamber, guess what? That's going to outgas first, the material on the top. So anything that you took first is going to be last, because you have to rewind the film in the camera and then put it back in the case and then send it to Bill. Here's another thing. We made certain that did not go through a scanner, a radiation scanner. Was when it went through the airport, we had a special package for it. And also we paid extra. It was $3 extra to have that package manually open. It did not go through the radiation scanner or the scanners that they use for your body, your scanners, what they scan the mail with, the x-rays. So we paid $3 extra. And then when Bill did this test, then he paid that extra $3 to have it sent back so that they could physically examine it to make sure there was no strangeness going on. So again, we paid extra for that. We were very, very careful with that. And I've also shown what happens to when radiation hits that film, because I had taken the film and I had placed it on one of the rolls, just one of the rolls, right? That's the black and white roll. That's the NASA film that I purchased, the real stuff, the black and white stuff, okay? That's the stuff you see in this video that I placed by the microwave oven on the outside. And I gave that microwave oven a 1 second burst of that radiation with the door open. And look what happened to it.
Yeah, really.
So can you just...
I'm just looking at the comments
Yes.
here, Robert. And we have somebody here that's saying Tor is not a logarithmic scale for a given temperature. It scales is linearity with the number of molecules. And there again, he's taking it back to a percentage, and he's just dead wrong. And this is where the problem is. It doesn't matter how I try to explain this to people. The first scale that was measuring the Tor value, okay, is a device. It's just like a bathroom scale, okay? It measures the pressure. It has nothing to do with the percentage of molecules. It doesn't measure that. Okay, it's a mechanical device to measure pressure, positive or negative. And these people can Google it and you look it up and you will see it. And it also has, when you're looking at the scale, it'll say if you exceed this much, if you exceed Tor 10 to the minus 6, you'll break the scale with that particular device, because a mechanical scale can only measure to that far. They can't build a device doing that. They have digital scales that will measure more than that. And beyond that, they use a mass spectrometer, which estimates the amount of vacuum. Okay? They can't build a device strong enough, a mechanical device strong enough to measure the pressure that the force of the vacuum is the force of the vacuum. You're not allowed to say suck, because McToon's got a full handle on that. Right? He's got the
yeah. You know, I was thinking
he
about.
pisses me off. Like, he really pisses me off.
But you know what? Like Norm Optic said, good analogy on capacitance, because this Oh, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't. You have a delay, so I can't tell if I'm walking on you. So you have to tell me if I'm walking on you. There's a 2-second delay on my end. But
No,
in
you're
any
good.
case, what happens is Bill was the one who taught us that analogy to use. And we have displayed so many graphs showing it's logarithmic. Bill has explained that it's logarithmic. The University of Patras, they are on a logarithmic scale when they're using that Tor value in their vacuum experiments. So how can a university be wrong? You know, tell me, guys. So everybody else is right, but the university's wrong. Okay, that's what I just wanted to get in there. I'm done.
I'm not seeing any other comebacks from that. I mean, like I said, anybody can Google a Tor scale and get the specifications for it, and they can see the diagrams of how it actually operates. Okay? There's absolutely no way that it can measure anything, because if it did, like I said, you put it in a container and close it, it's going to read something, right? It'll read 0. Okay, you just close the lid on a device. You've got the same amount of air, same amount of pressure of air inside as outside. It's going to read 0.
Well, exactly. I could show you Phil Mason from Thunderfoot. He did a really good analogy on this when he was explaining vacuum, and he had a really great graphic up there, right? This was about a year ago, you know, and he's showing that when you open and close and the pressures, and then he heats it up and you could see the molecules flying around. He puts the exact same amount of molecules in that chamber, shuts the lid, and then counts the molecules as he's heating it up. They don't change, but they go a lot faster. And then when he cools it down, the molecules slow down. Hence, you have less pressure. You have the same amount of air in there.
Exactly.
This is what he was explaining.
Yeah. And the other thing is that Bill went into are the little phenomenal things that happen in a vacuum once you get up past 10 to the minus 4 and beyond, and certainly once you're past 10 to the minus 6. I mean, you have materials that start off-gassing, and we're talking about metals here, okay? And Joyce Deaver had with the 15 years she did at the Sandusky Chamber with her team there, documented, she had at least 50 documents, PDF files up on that were available online, which have all been taken down, by the way, okay, showing when materials start off-gassing. Some of the materials that NASA is using, especially titanium and the aluminum products, right, actually started off-gassing at 10 to the minus 3 and 10 to the minus 4.
Right.
When you get to 10 to the minus 6, any rubber products out there, neoprene, anything else, it doesn't matter, okay, they cannot be used as seals. Simple as that. Okay, this type of phenomenon wouldn't happen if there was such a little difference between 10 to the minus 1 and 10 to the minus 17. No, it's been stated. He's saying it's only 1/10 of 1%.
And here's where I asked, here's where I asked Bill this. You know, remember we were taught. Whoops, something died.
No, you're good. You were saying?
Oh, yeah, I was just saying that what happened with, like, when we were explaining this with Bill and this thing about vacuum and all of these things, it was just interesting the way he was putting it all together, and he was making it made so much sense. And when people come on and they will say, well, again, you know, it's about this outgassing business. And then I asked him this question. I said, Bill, I says, if I take a glass of water and I put that in a vacuum chamber down here on Earth, and I crank that down to, let's say, Tor 10 to the minus 3, let's just say that. Now let's take it up into space, which is, you know, to the International Space Station, and let's throw that water out an airlock. I says, is it going to do the same thing, even though it's Tor 10 to the minus 7 up there, which is worse? It's still going to outgas. It's going to just go like this, and it's basically gone. Now, when we did that in our chamber down here, we got it to -3. And I'm telling you, you can ask Scott that when I turned that switch on, I mean, I purchased a really big
Well,
pump.
tell them about your
vacuum
first
pump.
machine.
When I turned that,
Your little machine,
oh,
you
yes.
turned it on and you could watch the water boil. And it would take,
Yes,
it would
you
take
could
a
watch. Yeah,
minute or
that's
so
right.
to it
You could,
fully
yeah,
outgas. Your
that's
the
right.
one
Yeah,
to
you
10
could
to the
watch.
minus
You could
3,
watch. Yeah,
you turn it on and it's just gone.
that's
And
right.
if you're at 10 to the minus 7, you're liable to end up with an ice cube because it's going to pull the heat that much faster out of there. It's going to evaporate so quickly. If you have enough water,
That's right. But
enough
here's the
water,
thing.
you could end
But
up
here's
with
the
ice.
yeah. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing that I was getting at when I was asking Bill this. I says, okay, now we have a glass of water down here in the chamber, glass up there. Both are going to outgas. They're going to fizzle away and they're gone into steam or whatever, water vapor. Now I said, so that means that if I was to use a rubber seal down here to seal something and I wanted to go beyond toward 10 to the minus 6, that rubber is going to start to leak. It's going to let all the air start going through it. It's outgassing. The rubber itself's outgassing. So is that going to happen up in space if we do it up there? He says, of course it will. I says, okay, well then I seen when he was showing me the metal seals between the metal and rubber in the university's vacuum experiment. And what had happened was, he says, once you get past toward 10 to the minus 6, you need those metal seals. And I says, really? I says, so would you need metal seals up there too? And he says, of course you would. So people, tell me what is going on here. If water outgasses here, outgasses there, if we put blood into a chamber, it outgasses here, it outgasses there. Everything outgasses. So what do you think is going to happen to these seals? They're going to outgas, just like Joyce Deaver showed in her experiments. But then it's supposed to work in an environment on the moon that's toward 10 to the minus 12. You're going to need metal seals. So good luck to you guys trying to get that lunar gateway station constructed, because once you dock anything to that station or you try to screw the modules together, anything you touch, if it is not protected with a coating, it is permanently welded together. And I've shown a lot of videos showing that when as soon as you touch, that's it. It's welded. It's finished. It's a part of that station now. So how are they going to build that?
Yeah. The other thing that Bill had mentioned to me, that manufactured or man-made materials all have an inherent flaw to them when they're being manufactured, when you throw them into space, because you have other materials are being absorbed into it when they're being manufactured. I don't care if you heat them up, if you're molding them or whatever. It's not a 100% pure item that's in there, right? And the biggest thing is atomic oxygen is absorbed into it, especially into metals and stuff like that. And that's the first thing that starts off gassing out of these materials to start with. And then if you have 3 or 4 different materials to make, to make a composite material, right? One of them is going to start breaking down before the other ones do. Okay, and it's going to compromise the structure and integrity of that particular material, like that. And I know, Robert, you probably still have the mylar from the Joyce Deaver experiments, right? Showing them the pulley,
the
pulled out there.
Yeah, the mylar.
And the one thing that people need to understand, the mylar that is on the outside of these vehicles that they claim they're putting in space, mylar and ester film are the exact same polymer plastic, 100%. Anybody can Google that. Okay, like I know all the people are watching. You can Google that and see it. Ester and mylar are exactly the same thing. The only thing different about them is their name. One is used for outside materials. The other one is specific for film.
I had a thought, guys. So after listening to this debate where the legendary Marcus Allen did a phenomenal job. And, going to the Modern Debates channel, I already knew that it was going to be filled with NASA apologists. I mean, no question. I mean, Toon has a following of 75,000 followers, so I'm sure most of those people were his own people, following him there. But one thing that I saw a couple of times was how, Marcus Allen didn't produce any evidence. And this is my thought, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. Why do we have to prove that these moon landings were fake? We were not the ones that made the extraordinary claim that man landed on the goddamn moon. That was NASA. And the evidence that they provided, and this is based on a quote that I made up myself, these goofy videos, these goofy photographs are flimsier than the lunar lander itself. So the onus is on them. The evidence that they provided, I refuse to accept. So I feel we put ourselves in a bind when it's our duty to debunk this myth or this fairy tale. We're doing ourselves a disservice. We shouldn't go about it that way. Like I said, that's their claim, their extraordinary claim that they cannot replicate today in 2024. I mean, that was, Toon started to squirm away when Marcus Allen brought up the Artemis program. He didn't want to go there because that kills NASA apologists as well. Because if we talk about the Artemis program and how that's basically a 10-year program that keeps getting delayed and delayed and delayed because we can't go to the moon today. I mean, I played the clip last time I had you guys on my show where Neil deGrasse Tyson says we have nothing to take us to the moon with today's technology. We don't. This is why Artemis keeps getting postponed. So I think we need to start putting our foot down. That the onus isn't on us to disprove this nonsense fairy tale. Do you guys see what I'm saying? What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Well, let me tell you. I think they're waiting for our virtual reality technicians to perfect their skills and present it that way. I don't think they want to admit that we don't have the technology. They can't back down to it because they've been at it for so many years, and it's such a financial institution worldwide.
Well, like I said in today's video, the ones pardon me, today's video rather, the ones that I always put out each week, I said, well, isn't that really interesting that we take a look at technology, rocket technology, how it has progressed. And now we have Boeing aircraft with doors falling off. Well, Boeing, don't forget, people, Boeing was the one who spent most of the time assembling the Saturn V rocket, helping with the lunar rovers, and they've had 60 years in space travel. And putting space equipment together. Now we take a look at what happened with this International Space Station situation here, where Boeing put this craft up there, and it could have killed another two astronauts. So NASA, I heard yesterday, I don't know if it's true or not, but someone in the comment section might say or bring us up to speed on it. But yesterday I heard that NASA canceled the contract with Boeing. Can you believe this, friends? Because these guys are the ones that supposedly got people to the moon, and yet they can't even get a capsule to the space station? Oh, come on. There's really something wrong here. And yet here we have Elon Musk, that's a newcomer to all of this, And in what, 15 years, look at everything that he's accomplished. He has rockets landing by themselves. He has craft going up and down. Well, I mean, the one with 30 some odd engines on it, of course, it blew up. He's going to have trouble with that. I mean, just look at the Russians. They tried it 4 times and it blew up every time. But I understand that he's trying to push push it. But
of course, he's trying to
come
experiment.
on, when Boeing,
But at the same time,
yeah,
he's
it's an
using-
experiment, but Boeing can't even do it. Boeing is the one who put all this equipment together, and yet how come they can't get one capsule up there without all of these problems? This is very suspicious to me.
How about the spacesuits, Robert?
Oh, brother,
There you go.
the spacesuit.
Yeah, Musk is using
Axiom.
movie studio
No.
costume designers to build their spacesuits, and Axiom.
Now here was a question. Yeah, I asked about Elon Musk and these spacesuits, right? What had happened was he said that they're flight suits, and they're only vacuum tested to around torr 10 to the -3. That's it. So guess what's going to happen when that spacecraft leaks down? They're dead. And not only that, but now Collins Spacesuit Manufacturing, Collins Aviation, they were the ones that were producing all of the spacesuits for this Artemis mission and the ISS. Guess what? 4 weeks ago, they pulled out. That's it. Now they have nobody to build these spacesuits. So they were saying that now the Artemis program is put back another year. Good Lord, when's this thing ever going to get there? And they only have 3 modules completed to the Lunar Gateway Station. They still have another 2 to build. I mean, people are saying 2035, 2040, they can see it, but there's no way they're getting anywhere. So now they've called on Axiom to start to build these suits for them. So we'll see. We shall see.
Yeah, well, for a $3.5 billion contract, I'd be building spacesuits for them as well.
Yeah, that's the funny thing, the NASA budget. See, I think the average person, someone that hasn't been immersed in the whole NASA story, when you ask them, why haven't we been back? A lot of them will say it's money, it's not a priority, which is all nonsense. You know, when people bring that up, I mentioned the 2023 budget, which was in excess of $24 billion. Then I bring up the 2024 budget, same thing. So money isn't the issue. It's the lost technology. And this is what we need to hammer home, because I thought Marcus Allen could have really cornered Toon at one point when they were talking about the film. And Toon tried to make a big deal as his standard procedure in trying to squirm away. Well, what film did you use? It's not the right film. Blah blah. He's poking on stupid crap. How the hell can you perform an accurate test when this is special order film? You know, like you can do that, and
like I did.
Yeah. Well, and he's alluding to again this miraculous 60s eras tech that we no longer have today.
Oh, don't forget, Wheezy.
They always go back to that.
Yeah, don't forget though. He changed when we were in when the subscribers were over on his channel. Everything was fine. Then when our subscribers started going over to his channel, guess what happened? He switched it to subscribers only mode. That was another thing.
Yeah, because there was a poll running. There was a poll running on the chat. And they were 71% in favor of Marcus at that point, and then they put it to subscribers only.
Yes.
And blocked everybody.
Well, this comment by Danny Diesel, mixed stool equals NASA bullshit. I love it. Yeah, I mean, he's a one-trick pony. I love a great debate. In the best debate,
but the debate, Wheezy, he was not sticking to the book. Okay,
no, he wasn't having a debate.
He wasn't.
Because he knows nothing about the topic. Zero. He's
But
got
he's holding the
zero
book
when it
up.
comes
He's
to
holding,
the
yeah, but
topic.
he's holding the book. Okay, I understand that, right? He's holding the book up to try to make himself look intelligent. He's trying to do the Rubik's Cube to make himself look smart. Well, I don't know about you people. Did anyone in this comment section see him finish that cube?
Nope.
No, I didn't. See, this
Yeah.
is the problem with people like this. Now, Mike might be a fantastic fellow offline, off screen. You know, I mean, there's like, you take a look at Taffy, for example. He's really, really out there on screen. But when you talk to him normally, like personally, he's just like one of the guys. You see what I mean? It's the on-screen personality. And some people cannot, they can't undo that.
escape
Like
it.
they can't escape that on-screen personality because it's addicting after a while.
Yeah, it's
And
like
what
it's
happened,
like a
what I
high.
think too, was McToon.
It
Yeah,
hits
like
the
what happened with
dopamine.
Mike.
I'm sorry, Bob. Yeah, that delay.
Yeah, like,
I'm not trying to talk
I'm
over you.
sorry, yeah, but yeah. But what happened when Mike? He's been dealing with the flat Earth community for so long, and I'm sorry, but I think that some of them, I'm not saying all of them, I'm just saying that some of them have been radicalized. And also, he's been dealing with those people for so long in abusive terms. They don't deserve that either. Nobody does.
No one does.
But he's been doing that for so long that he can't separate himself from it any longer. And I think it's really affecting him personally. It is.
But he's socially challenged.
Like, he needs to back off.
McToon is socially challenged. Okay, and that's being pleasant, because when I say challenged, he's exceptionally challenged. And when I say challenged, I mean retard.
Yeah.
Well, that could be his on-screen persona.
Because it's not
that could be
politically
Mike's
correct to call a retard.
or a
challenged.
douchebag is I think that fits him even more. You could see through a lot of people's characters. You could tell a lot of times when something is their online persona, if you will, or when it's a shtick, and that seems to be his shtick based on some of the other stuff that I've seen from him.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a stick. I think he's completely unaware that he's challenged. Okay,
yeah, he's one of these
unaware
people
that he's unaware.
Yeah, he thinks he's one of these people that he's never wrong in his mind.
Right.
I mean, whatever you tell him, he has to be right.
Right.
There's no proving him wrong.
The fact of the matter is, he does not know that he does not know.
Yeah. Yeah, and so these, I guess the point that I was trying to make is I am a fan of debates, and I feel debates can be productive. But the best debates are when both parties come into these spaces in an honest manner. I'm not saying they're obviously going to be, the two sides are going to be disagreeing with each other, but when they're courteous with each other, when they're being honest, when one side doesn't know and they're honest about their takes, those are the best debates you can glean stuff, in my opinion. A debate like the one against someone as deceitful, and it's funny because he's such a scumbag, and he's someone that projects his dishonesty by then turning around, you're a liar, you're a liar, you're a liar. Why are you lying? Why are you lying? That's some SOB. He's the one that's lying, and
but you see, here was
projecting because that makes him feel better about himself. He's a scumbag.
Yes, and here was the thing though. When he was going on about calling Marcus a liar, if he would have stopped and let Marcus finish what he was saying, Marcus was going to show him that Earth had 10 sides on it. Okay. Now I've gone to the March to the Moon website, I've gone to March to the Moon and I've pulled that up in a TIFF. Now, granted, you can't see those 10 sides in a TIFF. He's right. Okay, he's right about that. But here's the thing. When you show some of the other ones there in a TIFF, and I've done this, I've found 2 lems. Scott and I have shown this in videos where we've gone over there, downloaded the TIFFs, and then I put them in the editor and brightened them up a little bit. And guess what you see in the background? The lem is right inside of the frigging window frame. How the hell can it get there?
Do you have that one handy,
See,
Robert?
we're not talking about. Oh my dear! No, I don't have that handy, but I could certainly go to March to the Moon and dig it up. Do you have that one?
I can
wanted
do
to
it
see
right
the
off
tips.
of my. I can sharpen that one up and show it right here any second. If you tell me how to share the screen here.
Yeah, just go to the middle bar. It'll say present. Present is the share
Okay,
screen.
present.
Yep. Have you seen, so a comment by Legrand Ben Dragon. Have you seen that clip, Wheezy, with Buzz and the child where he admits they never went? I have seen it. And NASA apologists will say, oh, well, he's getting old and, you know, he doesn't know what he's saying these days. that's
debatable.
That's what they fall back.
That was a big debate, wasn't it?
Yeah. This is awesome. We have 60 viewing on the Apollo Detectives channel. We have 20 on Rockfin. We have 15 on Rumble. And we have, I think, 5 on Odyssey. So we have about 100 folks tuned in. So across all the platforms, and many more hundreds will watch on or listen on the podcast. So shout out to everyone.
Yeah, thanks a lot, fellas. Thanks a lot, guys and gals, for showing up. That's great. I mean, listen, all we're doing is presenting the facts here, and we're not talking out of our own free will. We talk to these professors, we talk to the PhDs, we talk to the bachelors of science. I mean, it was even said with David Percy. Here's something I would like to say quick. He went right to the Kodak scientist who worked on that Kodak film that was produced for the moon landings. He went right to the horse's mouth. We're talking first generation evidence here. You know what that man said? He said there was nothing special about that film other than 2 things. The backing was S-star, which most of it is. But anyways, it was S-star and the grains were finer. Other than that, that's it. There's no difference. So all these people can say, and by the way, this is not high altitude aerial film. We're talking about a special film that was made for NASA. And those were the 2 things. The backing was thinner and the grains were smaller. Those were the only 2 things that scientist told David Percy, and it's on Dave's site on owlis.com under the movie section. It's a 2-part series.
Okay, I'm going to share this.
Anyways,
share this photograph right now.
Yep. Well, you could send it to me on Skype. I can put it up.
Select window or screen.
Yeah, wherever that video.
It's a little tricky, Scott. You want to just send it to me? I'll send it
up.
Screen.
Allow.
Okay, I see it. I see it. Yeah.
You see it?
There you go.
Okay. There's the picture. There's the window in here. And then we'll show you how it's cut out.
Yeah, thanks, Secret Squirrel. Thanks for stopping by.
Okay. Is that nicely done or what?
Yeah, and by the way, there's your there's your high res photo, that one right there. Now wait a minute. I downloaded the TIFF of this, and it's not as bad.
It's this one in 2008.
Yeah, I downloaded the TIFF that Mike suggested, and you still see it around there.
Yeah.
So not as bad, but it's there.
That's the one example.
Oh God, yes.
There are many.
Well, that's the other thing that Toon kept saying. Like, he would dismiss Marcus Allen's evidence, and yet his evidence is NASA videos and photos that are obviously fake as hell. That's his evidence.
He didn't.
I mean, that was ridiculous.
If he wanted to talk about that this film was special, he should have had it with him, with the documentation from NASA. He never presented that, so he presented nothing. He only made a statement.
Let's talk about Buzz Aldrin in the door frame.
You going to share on that?
And the 3 pictures. Now, of course, let's see, where did I do it? Now I went and I dumped it. because when I finished the videos, I accidentally dumped that one.
It's okay.
Do you have it handy?
I have. Yeah, I'll just share the screen again. I still have my desk. I still have the folder on the desktop with a whole bunch of stuff we can show here.
Yeah, let's show that one, because that was the one that I put in that clip that I really wanted Marcus to show it, but he didn't get he actually didn't have the time. But hey, evening UK breaks.
Shout out to all the UK listeners. Hell yeah.
Okay, I'll just minimize
UK
this stuff.
breaks.
This is the image you wanted, right?
That's the one right there. Now you give them a rundown of that one, Scott.
Well,
yeah, so Scott, before you start, please describe it in as much detail as you can, because there's going to be people that listen to this on the podcast and they're not going to be able to view it. So what are we looking at, Scott?
okay, we're looking at the doorway where they exit from the LEM out onto the ladder. The doorway is basically a square 32 inches around. It's about 3 inches thick on the thing. Directly above it, 1 inch above this doorway on the inside, is the main console, the flight console that they're running from, with the joystick controllers, the computer, everything else. It sits in about 12 inches, and it's directly above the door into the space. The entire space that they're standing in is 36 inches across. So you can see that on the right-hand side here. The PLSS pack is about 30 inches high, 10 inches deep, and about 12 inches across. So when it's sitting on your back, you have 10 inches of material going all the way up to the back of your head. Now, for them to turn around and come out on their knees, okay, they have to get around that console that's inside. But the photograph of Buzz Aldrin in the doorway, the backpack is right up against the door frame, and he's standing almost vertical, or kneeling almost vertical up there. There's absolutely no way that console can be in there for him to be in that position. Okay, he cannot occupy the same space as the console, or the console cannot occupy the same space that Buzz is in. Okay, it's as simple as that. It's one of these things where you know that it's missing, even though it's not visible in the photograph. You have to understand the interior contents of this vehicle. So what you have basically is just a prop. All they needed was the doorway and the ladder to come down onto film. Okay, they didn't need to have anything else. They didn't need to have Collins around either. I mean, he's supposed to be orbiting, you know, and he comes into radio contact for 22 minutes out of an hour. And they never talked to him for the entire length of time he was there. Supposed to be orbiting around, because he was probably took a T-38 to California and was sitting at Hugh Hefner's grotto. And this happened for all 6 missions, by the way. Okay, there's no contact with anyone in the orbiter for each one of them. They were so focused on shooting the ground effects with these cheap props that they had. Okay, and we'll pull up the main photograph here to look at. You can see, and the lighting has been discussed by many people over many years. Okay, this is the shady side. This is the shady side. Okay, the moon reflects 9% light, and there's no atmosphere, so there's no diffusion of light. So it can't diffuse backwards, because this is on the shady side. There should be no light here at all. And yet, if you really want to get into it, you can see all the way in the door. how does it get there? If it's coming up from the lunar surface, this thing sits out this platform that they come out onto the ladder sits out 3 feet above that. How can the light be there?
Yes. Okay, Scott, just something important but for now. This is very important. I've mentioned this because Mike made a point here. I went and I did what he said. I went and I pulled the TIFF down to this.
Yep.
Okay. And I had a look at it, and I can show it if you want here. But in any case, he is right. You can't see into that door frame. Okay. It's very black. Now, here's the trick to this. If I use Photoshop to brighten that TIFF up, okay, it's going to be a different brightness than it is in my editors. Let me finish. In my editor, or in a different editor, or in VideoPad, or in Shotcut, they all have a different bright default. I'm talking a default brightness setting.
Right.
So his default brightness is going to be different than my default brightness. So if I put that TIFF into my editor, it's very dark by default. If I put that into Shotcut, it's a little bit brighter by default. If I put that into Photoshop, it's even worse. It's darker. And if I put that into VideoPad Editor, it's about medium. Now, these are the defaults, mind you. So it all depends on what editor he's using. But as you've seen, when he brought the brightness up on that TIFF that he showed, you could see right into that door frame.
Yeah, but it's still based on this particular photograph. They just
still that photograph, but
created it and called it a raw file. They're still using this photograph.
I'm just saying the TIFF is very dark.
Yeah.
By design.
Yeah.
But again, it depends what software you're putting that in and what software default they're using.
Okay.
For the brightness.
And we're talking about the Mylar in space, right? This is the Mylar, exactly the same material as S-Star film,
which has been out there 9 days.
Yeah.
You know, like you guys are
in space,
and yeah. I'm laughing at this, not at you guys at all, but to me it sounds hilarious that this even has to be debated. This thing that looks like a elementary school project with made out of cardboard.
This is the control side here, and this is the results of it after it's spent. This was done at the Sandusky Chamber and apparently on the ISS.
Those panels were on the ISS. Yep.
Okay. And this is what happens. These are all different kinds of polymer plastics and stuff in here, an entire variety. But this panel here is Mylar.
That's right.
And that's what happens to it just from being in space. That's
9
exactly
days.
what would happen to the film.
That was a 9-day trial on that.
Okay. And here's one that was done right at Sandusky. This was off the now deleted files from Joyce Deaver.
Well, you know what? It's interesting. It all depends, though, what site you read. Some say that was out on the ISS, and others say that was in the chamber that Joyce Deaver did. So right. I don't know what's the truth.
Yeah, but I had the document. That's where I grabbed it from. That particular photograph was from the document. I should have kept that document. Then they were deleted when I went to go get them.
Oh, that's nothing.
That was a problem. And if anybody thinks the spacesuits are absolutely marvelous to look at, let's have a little closer look.
Well, how's that going to seal? Is there a hole in it?
There's where it comes up to. There's that much of a gap. They just covered it over with Velcro. And if anybody says that there's an inner liner bladder, okay, or if they say it's incorporated into this suit, here's where the bubble helmet attaches. Okay, to this material here. If you have an inner liner, the bubble helmet has to attach to that liner, and it doesn't. It attaches to this suit. And here's another shot of it to show you that it attaches to this suit. Okay, and there's the gap. Okay,
well, how are they going to seal that?
You think it's going to seal right down here, along here? Do you see it sealing along here?
Well, look at the rubber. There's a rubber gasket for the helmet goes.
That's
Well,
where the
how's that
rubber
gonna
meets
work?
the road.
There's the rubber
How's that
gasket
going?
right there.
Yeah, there's another one on the inside where the seal is there. That black, look at, there's a black, there you go. I mean, how the heck's that going to seal in a vacuum of torr 10 to the minus 12?
And don't forget, the pressure is pushing away from that rubber, not towards it to compress it. And you see these quick release latches, just like a door handle. How are they going to do anything? How are they going to put pressure on that seal? They don't.
It's a vacuum.
These are costumes. These are costumes. Okay, and they're very careful to make it look like they were in space. And if anybody hasn't taken a look at this wet flag, I always like to show off the wet flag because
it's moist, all right.
You know, if you can't see that that's wet, you know, like show it to your friends and let them show it. Let them tell you all about it, right? Because if you can't, like my thing is that if a human being can not identify moisture, he's got about 3 days left to live.
And moisture doesn't really do too well in a vacuum, does it? I mean, that's just like the compression on the legs of the lander, and that was something we were really wanted to get into, because there's a fella that gave a comment this morning, and he was saying that it's because the reason why there's no compression was because the LEM kind of came in sideways and then it touched down and there was no force on it. But when we go and look at the documentation, they shut the engine off 10 feet, 9 to 10 feet above the lunar surface. Now, my question to you, Scott, is how much does that LEM weigh in lunar gravity?
Well, the descent stage engines, if they were completely empty, you're still looking at around 8,000, 8,500 pounds. But the equivalent of 2 full-size pickup trucks, right?
Drop that from 10 feet and see what happens to the truck.
You know, there are other excuses that they claim that they waited till the and it's in the transcript as well. When the alarm came on when the drogues hit, right? That's when they turned the engine off.
But it's very interesting when you watch the clip of them coming down, the dirt or the regolith, whatever they're using, is being sprayed. It's coming out in a radial pattern as they're coming down. And a matter of fact, Apollo 14 is even crazier because they come down, 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 and there's still spray coming out. And then you could almost at the very bottom of the frame see, it looks like there's a guy with a hose either spraying sand or regolith all over the place, or it's steam, one of the two. But there's somebody down there that's spraying it. And I'll tell you why. Because the retros are not down that low. That's why.
No, they're not.
The retros are up on top.
They'd have to have
this
some
coming
mounted,
from the bottom.
They'd have to have some mounted up in the bell housing. And that's another thing when you're looking at the LEM, by the way. That's supposed to be a titanium bell housing that's on there, and with cooling coils in it.
Yeah.
And there's unique properties about titanium. First of all, they didn't even learn how to weld titanium until 1974. And you can go out and read the documents on that, how they were learning how to do that. But the second thing is you just can't curl that little roll that's up at the bottom of the bell housing that's rolled up like that. You can't do that. Titanium is too brittle of a material to do that with, right? That's just, or as Taffy would like to say, it's an old wash tub. It's just a piece of aluminum that they put in there. And it's also got a few scratches and missing paint on it because that's just primer that's on there, right? And if you fired anything through the paint's going to blow right off of it because bell housings are not painted, right? And you can see the ones that that Musk is using, they're glowing like that. You can see the cooling coils in it. There are images of them building a LEM with a proper bell housing on it. You see it when it's hanging up in the one of their safe clean rooms, that they have, that they're building the thing in, right? You'll see that. You'll see the bell housing is quite a bit different than what is shown, because this is just a poorly made prop. There's nothing special about it. They only needed it for, filming on the set. That's it. Okay. And that's the same thing as when Buzz is coming down the ladder. I mean, we didn't get into that much. Neil's not even there to take the photographs. Okay. Neil's got his back to Buzz as he's coming down the ladder, and yet you have the photographs of him coming down the ladder. But on the television screen, he's not even there. Okay. David Percy pointed that out in 1997. Okay. Ralph Renee pointed out that there's no blast crater. Well, if you don't have a console inside that prop, you can't turn an engine on. So you don't need to have an engine in there either. It's probably just blank, empty, nothing inside of that, right? Make it easier for them to get out, because.
And Marcus made a good point too. And this is what one of the people in the comments section, I just noticed something. Polarized lenses. Now let's have a look at a polarized lens. Well, I showed what a polarized lens does in today's video. Well, you need a viewfinder to use a polarized lens.
Exactly.
They had no viewfinder. So how could they tell how far to turn the lens to block out the light? Does anybody have an answer for this? I don't.
Well, they were professionals.
I have been in the film industry since 1979. But in and out. And I'll tell you, I've worked on the X-Files, the Outer Limits. Some of my family members are Hollywood celebrities. And that's as far as I'm going to go with that. I'll tell you something. I know quite a bit about the movie industry. And I'll tell you one thing. No one is taking a picture, whether with film or in digital, without a viewfinder using a polarized lens. It's not going to work. Either it's going to be all the way, or you're going to get nothing. It'll be black as pitch, or it's going to be so far off the picture will be of no use. That was something that Marcus said, and I wish he would have brought that out. But of course, Mike wouldn't allow him to bring it out because he kept interrupting. What a shame that wasn't it?
Well, their excuses is that they took thousands of photos, so there's a lot of them that look bad. And I mean, does it even cross their mind that that's part of the fakery? Let's take some intentionally bad shots, to add realism to it.
The astronauts definitely were taking the photographs, especially when they're out running around on the set. Okay, they're driving around on the rover, they're getting off doing it. If you take a look at the ones around, like the jump salute and all of those that are beautifully, everything is absolutely correct on those photographs. Those are the ones that were taken for the magazines and for the newspapers and for all of the media at the time. And there's probably 2 or 3 dozen for each mission that were taken like that professionally. And those are professional photographs. And when you realize that a professional photographer is going to include his own talents while he's taking a photograph. The astronauts, the cameras were mounted on their chest. Okay. And Marcus Allen and David Percy both said, the camera height is way too high if it's mounted on their chest to take the famous photograph of Buzz Aldrin. Right? It's mounted higher. It's almost at his head level. And it couldn't be if it was taken on the chest. And I call that a professional photographer. I'm calling that artistic license. They're going to use their own technique, their skills, everything else to make that perfect picture. Okay. And that's the same as like the ones that were in the media, the ones that they put in the magazines, everything else, they're absolutely perfect. The ones that were taken out and around everything else, they can have everything. The ones that got the juice spilled on them and the whole 9 yards, right? You know, they're hit and miss on the thing, because those were the actronauts, right? That were taking those photographs.
You know, I wanted to touch on the duct tape part. You know, Mr. Marcus Allen brought up the whole duct tape on the Rover repair job, and the way Toon dismissed it, I was laughing hysterically. I so wish Mr. Marcus Allen would have just pinned his ass down on that. He, you know, it was just nonchalantly like, really, duct tape? They did some mechanical work out in space under extreme environments, and their solution was duct tape. And Toon said it with a straight face. I mean, it was hilarious for me.
He has no.
Well, he doesn't know that I did it. No, he doesn't know that I tested duct tape in my chamber, and all of the crap that came off of that after 24 hours, it was all this sticky goo. That's what it turned into. How is that going to work? I got this down to torque 10 to the -3. By the way, I did show that in one of the videos. Yeah. I showed the chamber with the tape and everything. All right. Well, you should have seen how sticky that stuff was. It was you pulled it out and it's all over your hands. It's just guck. And I don't know how that's going to stick onto anything permanently like that.
Yeah, well, then it's going to dry out after that. And then it won't stick to anything. It will be completely useless. Joyce Deaver again, working at Sandusky Chamber.
Yes, that's right, Scott. Yeah, you're right, because when I took that, they're still in the vacuum.
Yeah,
right.
And once you pull it out of there, then it's toast. Then it's screwed.
That's what happened. Exactly. Yeah. So there you go, Mike. There. Watch the video of the chamber with the tape in it, and then you'll see what really happens to that stuff.
Yeah. But Joyce Deaver, in her 15 years at the Sandusky Chamber, there had one document alone had 400 to 500 different adhesives and tapes in there, and there was only one tape, and I forget the name of it right at the moment, but there's one tape that surpassed the other ones. Most of the tapes failed at 10 to the -1 to 10 to the -2 in there, and this one got up to like 10 to the -4. That was the best tape out there. You're dealing at 10 to the -11 and 12 on the lunar surface. The dust is going to make it unusable, because like if they claim the dust is coming up on their suits and everything else, right? What happens when you get dirt on top of tape? It's not going to stick to anything. And what is the most unique thing is, how did that fender get back into a museum? How did it get from the moon into a museum on Earth?
Faith.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now they claimed, like, when I brought this up once before, when I was showing that both fenders, like there's two final resting spots on the Apollo 17 for the Lunar Rover. One has the wheels turned, and the other one, the wheels are straight, and both are claimed to be final resting spots. Okay, the one is sitting there with the rear fenders, that the movable section of it, and both fenders are removed on it. Okay, and then all of a sudden, oh, well, we've got it in a museum. They brought it back. Okay, well, you would have seen them loading it on because it's on film, right? The TV camera's showing them when they're getting back on board and hauling everything up on the cables, right? All their moon rocks and stuff. But you never saw them. You never saw them haul the fenders up. Okay, that's not in the photograph either. I mean, there's so much stuff missing in the transcript of what should have happened. Okay, it's just unbelievable. If you just went, if you went with the transcript and you realize what should have happened, particularly on takeoff, okay, you have maybe 2.5 minutes, whether you're going to go or not go to launch, to line up with the guy that's orbiting. right? And there's no communication between them. How are they going to connect? No communication with Houston or anybody else. They're just going to jump in there, push a button, and take off, and they're going to connect. Okay? You need to do some serious math. You need to have all kinds of people with slide rules out there calculating, because that orbit is slightly different each time, right? You've only got 22 minutes. That you
And here,
can
what about
communicate.
this, Scott? Yes, what about this, Scott? Once there's one fellow in the comment section here that he's asking us, what about the oxygen? You know, that's a very good question, because when we take a look at how small the oxygen tanks were inside of those PLLS packs, and you take a look at, they were supposed to last 8 hours, so 7.5 hours for Apollo 17, at least. Let's just stick to that one. So they're supposed to last, okay, 7.5 hours, let's say. Now let's take a look at a scuba tank, and let's put as much oxygen as we can into one of those cylinders that can take that kind of pressure, which is the same thing almost, if you think about it, with that 50,000 pound pressure tank, oxygen tank that was behind Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin's head, all of their heads, that little round
that was
tank
in the
that was
OPS
sitting
pack. The main tank was
That's
down in
right.
it wasn't
right.
that much
Okay,
larger.
that's right. But what about this though? Yeah, but what happens is, why is it that scuba divers can breathe 100% oxygen and they end up being poisoned, and yet these guys can take a tiny little tank like that, which lasts 7.5 hours of pure oxygen, and pumped up to crazy pressures, and they don't get poisoned by
Well,
it?
they're not running
Well, you know,
100%
but what about
inside
this?
as they're breathing. They're breathing out carbon dioxide,
No,
right? So you start out with natural
right?
air,
But okay.
and you're adding oxygen.
That's right. But what about this, though? Yes, but the tank sizes is what I'm talking about. How can you fit that much oxygen into a tank like that when scuba divers only last 20 minutes in those tanks? That's it.
Okay,
Finished.
well,
They have to start coming back up.
they designed the tank on the PLSS to run for 3 hours with a CO2 scrubber. Okay, so it's adding a little bit of oxygen to the air that's inside the suit, and the CO2 scrubber was pulling it out, like pulling the carbon dioxide out in that suit, and they claimed it lasted for 3 hours. The PLSS is exactly the same size, and by Apollo 17, they're going out on 8-hour missions with the same thing. The same as the water to keep them cool is only good for 2 or 3 hours as well, and yet they turned around with the same amount of oxygen in there and extended it to 8 hours, right? The battery was only good for a couple hours, yet it ran 8 hours as well, right?
And look at how many relays and pumps and motors that was running in there. I mean, granted, the radio, it was on a separate battery, but it's crazy the type of, you know something, if we did that with a battery that was, and the batteries were 386 to 7 watts at 29
the size
volts.
of a motorcycle battery?
Yeah, that's about right. Yep. That would be the end of it in an hour. Done.
So you've got a fan blowing air, circulating the air inside the suit. Then you've got a
relays opening and
pumping
closing
water
valve
through their cooling unit in there. Okay, you've got the fans in there blowing through the CO2 scrubber, right? Pushing air through that. You got one pumping water throughout the entire thing. Plus, you've got all your radio communications going on in there.
Yeah, but that radio was on a different battery. It was on its own.
Yeah, it had its own little battery. You're right, up at the top on the thing. But just with that amount of equipment there, just pumping that water, that would kill it in no time.
Oh, you got that right.
15 minutes maybe at the most. I mean, it's like we're talking about a fantasy suit here. It never happened. Wasn't going anywhere. They were never on the lunar surface. They were never in fear. You can see that the way they were joking around with all of the stuff there. They couldn't take it seriously. Even the astronauts couldn't take it seriously, right? I think that's half the reason why Apollo 13 had to be changed in the thing is because they're going like, we're not going to do this stuff one more time for you on the on this fake moonset, right?
You would not be falling on rocks that are sharp. You wouldn't take that chance jumping around and falling down backwards like many of them did. You would be so afraid, you'd be panicking. I don't care if you're Superman. And yet not one of these guys was in any peril. They were singing, they were dancing on the moon, they were making
Playing
all
golf.
kinds of silly things. And again, yeah, and I still say, back to my experience in the movie industry. You know something? I have played around with a mini high-speed camera in my day. And I'll tell you, if you take a 500 to 1,000 frame per second film camera and you do that, just have an astronaut, I don't care, it doesn't matter who it is, you just have them walk normally. Just, la-di-da-di-da-di-da, like this. No wires, no tricks, no anything. And then you take that and you slow it down. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to get the same floaty effect. Now you take that and you put that on an optical printer like Marcus was saying, and you start dropping frames and adding frames. Now the sand is going to fall at the same rate. You see? This is pretty much what I did with David Percy's clip. He used a high-speed camera, and I managed to match that 36 frames on the button. And what I did, to be fair to Mike McToon, is I took the Apollo film he showed, it's 29 let's just say 29 frames a second. Now, there's also variable frames per second, and there's constant frames per second, and there's variable frames per second. You have to take the footage that you get off the internet, put it in your editor, and then redo both at the same time above each other on 24 frames per second. Once you've exported that, then you can play around with it because now it's playing fair. You're on the same playing field. And that's how I got Dave's to match 36 frames per second when that hammer and feather dropped. You see? So, managed doing that with the Rover underneath that big, huge crane that they had. They had the craters blown in there already. All you had to do was just put some mountains around there, drop black curtains on it. Very simple to do. Have the Rover go up and down, use a slow motion camera. There you go. Now you have your Rover, the tail. It's so simple to do, folks. It really is.
Didn't that feather bounce a little bit?
Is a powerful piece.
Didn't that feather bounce a little
What
bit
bounce?
when it hit the ground?
Oh, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen a feather bounce.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a falcon feather. That's why it
Oh, I
bounced.
see. I guess
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to get a pillow made out of falcon feathers because mine, when I throw it on the ground, it just lays there, doesn't bounce.
Yeah, so for those that maybe have tuned in and aren't fully aware of what's going on or what we're talking about, we're just recapping the debate between MC Toon and our friend and legend Marcus Allen, whom put a beat down on MC Toon. The link is at the bottom of the description of my channels, wherever you may be listening to this, so you can listen to that debate. And I linked it to the Apollo Detectives live stream version of it. So if you missed it, I would definitely recommend going back and listening to that. Yeah, it's it was a great show, and I truly enjoyed it. I did want to ask you, gentlemen, did any of you get to watch the movie Fly Me to the Moon?
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. What about you, Bob?
No, I haven't seen that one yet. After the reviews that I heard, I wouldn't waste my money.
No. Me and Scott are going to convince you. Well, I don't know. Scott, I loved it. What were your thoughts on it, Scott?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a little bit of comedy, a little bit of this and that and the other on it like that. But I mean, they just wanted to skirt around. They were just poking fun at whether they went or not.
Yeah. See, I wanted to do a review.
The one guy, the movie director was absolutely hilarious. He played the part to a T. I don't know if he's actually like that in real life because he looks like he's that, or he was that good of an actor.
Channing Tatum.
Yeah, he just played that to a T, right? And
yeah, it was I didn't know what to expect, and I went to the movie. It was a couple of weeks ago because it was released right around the 55-year anniversary of man allegedly landing on the moon. And when I went to the movie theaters, I took the kids. I was laughing hysterically at some parts, and the rest of the theater was kind of looking at me weird, and I was laughing because I think if you go into that movie knowing that the whole thing is a sham, the jokes are even more funny. If you believe, if you go in to that movie thinking that we did make it to the moon, you may come out of that movie offended. How dare they joke about this? This was American exceptionalism on full display in 1969, and so I could see people getting offended over that. But if you have the mentality that it's all smoke and mirrors and it's all child's play, then the jokes will truly land. Excuse the pun. So, Bob, I definitely recommend it. I gave it 2 thumbs up all the way up. Well, I'll give it a partial thumbs down, and the only reason, without spoiling it for those that may want to watch it, the ending, and without ruining it for those that want to watch it, I felt the way they ended the movie was in a way to satisfy people that believe in the moon landings, to not piss them off completely. They kind of, they had to throw that out there just to not piss them off. But other than that, the jokes were hilarious. Everything about it was awesome.
I discussed this with Marcus. He saw it. Okay. Yeah. What happened?
What happened?
What? Go ahead.
I lost the sound there from Wheezy, but I discussed it with Marcus because he saw the movie as well. I looked at the trailer, and she's coming out the door and said, "We better get Kubrick." The film I watched, she was leaning over a desk and she kind of just mumbled it under her breath. We better get Kubrick. And the version that Marcus watched never had that in there.
I wonder why.
Okay. He watched a different version.
I'm assuming you guys are familiar with Capricorn 1. That was
absolutely
the original fake moon landing video.
Original one.
Yeah, I mean, with O.J. Simpson playing a couple of roles here and there.
But look at Diamonds Are Forever. That was very strange how they had that fake moon set in there. And what was even stranger to me is the astronauts. Why would they be moving in slow motion trying to catch Sean Connery, James Bond? That made no sense.
It was that was done in 1967. They were already
67.
They were already playing off that it was going to be fake.
That was a good year. Yeah.
Okay.
And they haven't even gone yet.
Yeah, we haven't been back. Yeah, I mean that movie, Fly Me to the Moon. I would, especially if you don't believe in the moon landings. A lot of the movies that come out seem to be trash. It's a lot of stuff and storylines you've already heard and seen. So for me, at least, there's not a lot of good stuff out there. I found that movie truly refreshing, even though at the very end they cave in and say, like we'll appease the people that believe in the mythology. But like I said, I was laughing hysterically in the theater. Great acting, great cast, great script. I would definitely recommend it, to anyone that may be thinking about it or unsure. Definitely. I I fully enjoyed it, and it sounds like you enjoyed it as well, Scott.
Oh, it was like my daughter, because she knows that I like this kind of stuff. As soon as it was available here, she had the tickets for me. We went. We saw it as an afternoon matinee. We were, including us, 8 people.
Oh, really? Only 8 people?
In a cinema that had 10 different films shooting on a Saturday afternoon when it was almost 30 degrees out. Yeah, we went at 1 o'clock in the afternoon for a matinee.
Interesting.
Yeah, there was only 8 people plus ourselves in the theater.
Wow. Yeah, I live in a small little sleepy beach town out here in Florida, and I mean, it was half full. I think their box office numbers. I think they spent about 100 million as a budget, if I remember correctly, and their box office opening was about 25 million. So they recovered a quarter of their budget on opening week. So it'll be interesting where the final numbers, come in.
I'm sure they'll make a profit off it.
Yeah.
They'll make a profit.
Sounds great. Yeah, and I don't want to keep you guys much of your time. I got a little message there from my good friends. I truly enjoyed having you guys on. This was a lot of fun. That's why before I let you guys go, I wanted to see.
Oh, I'm sorry. Just one. Oh, yeah. There's one thing. Yeah, he's right. Diamonds Are Forever was done in 1971. So
71?
that's still.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay, that's good. No, we have to correct ourselves. I always thought 67. I wonder which. Well, getting mixed up here. Anyways, that's good. It's 71, so that's why they did it. That makes even more sense.
Yeah, it's funny too. Just to quickly touch back on the whole spacesuits. When I had Marcus on a couple of weeks back, I showed him. They were walking around the early versions of the lunar lander, and there was an astronaut in full uniform, and his astronaut looked silly. It looked like a Halloween costume. Now, we were just pointing out the absurdities to the suits that they ended up using anyways. But as far as looks, just the aesthetics, those look pretty boss, pretty boss. But as you pointed out, all the flaws in it to actually use it out in space, I mean, they were just props, for lack of a better term. But the more prototype versions of the suits looked even more ridiculous. I mean,
yeah,
and you're gonna tell me that within that span of 1 to 2 years they perfected a spacesuit that could handle these extreme elements?
that's right. They had 3 companies that were building the suits. Yeah. But three companies were building the spacesuits, right? And that's the same with the gloves, the same with the helmets, right? They had multiple companies competing for the contracts for the suits. So when you see the blue suit, the one LeBlanc was in the vacuum chamber when he passed out, when it lost the pressure. Okay, of course that company, of course, wasn't going to get the contract for it when after that particular thing happened, right? So then they moved on to the bra manufacturer instead, right? But that you'll see that with all of the different types of things that we're competing with. And even with the Rover, right? You had General Motors and Goodyear rubber. Goodyear building like they're building rubber tires, and they asked them to help build the wire wheels, right? And then along with Boeing included in there. But like it's always done like that, right? To try and spread the idea is to spread the money around. Right?
Yeah.
That's one thing they were successful at. They spread the money around with it.
AKA money laundering.
Yeah. Well, it worked. It made the US advance forward. It brought the recovery from the Second World War that they were a little behind on with the rest of the country, brought them up to snuff on stuff like that, right? That kind of input into the infrastructure of the country, okay? Along, when you include the car companies and the rapidly expanding baby boomers in there building houses and everything else, right? The economy just literally exploded, right? And you gave them a common goal.
Yeah.
That's the part that was successful.
Yeah, I mean, considering the times too, that, and Marcus Allen was trying to bring that up and Toon didn't want to hear it, was the climate of that decade, that era. You know, you had the assassinations, you had Vietnam, you had a lot of things going. So it definitely was a world morale booster. You know, if nothing else.
Yep.
Well, it took the states and united them.
Yeah,
probably for the first time in history, right?
You know what's funny? I'm glad you said that because we're about to wrap this up. But I saw this gentleman. He works for NASA. I can't remember his name. But a couple of weeks ago, for the 55-year anniversary, prior to the madness that we're seeing currently, you know, right now, he said that 55 years ago, the NASA moon landings brought the country together. It was a great unifier, considering all the events happening, and he was basically saying that once the Artemis program, in his words, I don't believe this at all, but in his words, once the Artemis program gets back to the moon, it's going to be another moment that's going to be a unifier. It's going to push all the political turmoil to the side. And people are gonna rally behind it. I don't know if I agree with that at all, but you know that's what they're shooting for.
The thing is with Apollo, it was unified from 1963 on. It was a project to achieve. It was also designed to put an end to the Cold War, right? They were unified. They were unified when they started on the project, not after it happened. Right? That's the part that unified. That's what kept the country together. That's what brought the economy up so rapidly. Right? It's what made the dollar stronger. Because it was also faltering as well, right?
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, I can't thank you enough. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. Had a lot of fun. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, it was
Thank you,
fun.
Scott.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again soon.
I would love to. Yeah,
Except we need to have a topic that excludes a Looney Tune.
That's why I brought up the whole movies. You know, so we could get off a little bit there. But I'm one of the, you know, if you guys, we've known each other for a few weeks now. I do go off topic, but I think that's what my audience, at least, they love it when we go here, there, cover a bunch of stuff in a couple of hours. People enjoy that. They, you know, you get a little taste of everything here and there. But I'd love to, you know, do something down the line, and maybe we could do a monthly get together and do a live show. Yeah.
You want to do that? That's great.
Yeah, it looks like your audience loved it. My audience loves it. So
we'll pick a time and get Marcus on as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's one of the reasons why I do my shows at 5 p.m. Eastern, because I'm 5 hours ahead of the UK. And believe it or not, it's a long story I won't get into, but a lot of the people that listen to me are in the UK. So, you know, and there's actually going to be a UFC fight night in Manchester tonight, and I'm going to be covering that on my channel. So if anyone like these live streams, definitely, and you like UFC and conspiracies, we'll be chatting a lot about that on my channel at 10 p.m. Tonight Eastern. But gentlemen, yeah, we'll get together. We'll stay in touch, and we'll try to figure something out. Maybe we can do a monthly live stream And
Sounds good.
I think people would love that. Thanks, guys.
Yep. Okay, then. You guys all take care. Thanks for
Thank you,
coming,
sir.
everybody. We all appreciate it. And I tried to answer everyone's questions in the chat on our channel as much as I could. And we really appreciate you all for coming. We enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, take care now.